Nice weather, basketball season. Well, it's not often that you get a big week of basketball with both conference and non-conference, and this conference game, we've had a good start. In fact, we've had a great start. If 7 games is considered a start. But the schedule has been good. The schedule has given us some time in between games. I give Kevin Pulga credit on that. He's done a great job so that we've been able to prepare for teams and yet work on what we weren't as good at. I think it's helped us. Jeremy's been tremendous. We've gotten good leadership and production out of our captains in general with Jeremy, Jackson, Carson, and Cohen. And I don't think there's any question that that's been maybe the secret sauce to this team is that I've got veteran guys, juniors and seniors, that have shown their leadership to the young guys. We still need to get more out of our shooting guard spot. No secret about that. I've made no secret about that. But I do think we're making some progress in it. This week's going to be huge for us because it's our first conference game, and 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that changed, that makes it more taxing on us. You play those 3 or 4 big games like we do every year, and then you add 2 conference games. That's all of a sudden 6 games in a month, and we have to be able to handle that. On Iowa, we get a team that is unlike most teams that have lost a ton of players. More like Indiana, I guess, in football. Iowa is a very good team, and Ben McCullum has been a great coach at Drake, not a good coach. He's winning percentages off the charts, maybe one of the best in the country. And in saying that, he's taken a lot of that team with him, including Sturtz, its best player, who was player of the year, the player of the year in that league. So even though there was a lot of turnover with Sturtz, who's averaging 19 points a game, that's a pretty good piece. That comes as a senior that already knows the system, and the other 4 or 5 guys already know the system too. Have a couple of really good shooters besides him. They're leading the league in field goal shooting at 53%, and they have been very good defensively, leading the conference 61 points a game. So they've kind of done it on both ends. They've done it with some quality, I think, performances. They've done it with some depth. Maybe the only place that there's not a lot of depth is with Sturtz at the point. He's playing 39 to 40 minutes a game. But I've been very impressed. Now, I was impressed for a couple years watching Drake play, so it's not that it's any secret. But they've done a damn good job. They played some pretty good people, and I think it'll be a tough game. So questions, I'll take them on this.
Hey, Tom, you joked with us a couple weeks ago after Arkansas. We were down in the auxiliary gym, and you looked up and said you don't get any banners for what's been happening with the success. But I am curious, with the run you've been on, this early success, what do you get from that? What value do you get from this experience?
Boy, good question, because the value I get is keep reinforcing that relationships matter, that I think experience matters, and I think continuity matters. And for me, it's worked so far, and it's worked against some good teams. I also told you that it would take till the middle of December to figure out where we were and where other teams were. In other words, when you have a big win over a Kentucky team, you automatically put your team, or at least our fans do, at a different level. Kentucky had a lot of turnover, a lot of changes, a lot of guys that come in. Did that help? Did it hurt them? Will it help? Will it hurt them? Are they going to get better playing together as time goes on? Who do they play? They play North Carolina, I think, Tuesday night also. Those are the unknowns of some are going to benefit and some, I think, are going to fall. And so I think what it did for me is, what am I looking for here more than anything is consistency. I want to consistently be able to put a product on the floor that people respect and people enjoy, and I think I enjoy this team so far. I really do. I enjoy how hard they play. I enjoy that. I think my staff has done an incredible job because we've had a little time between each game. And what that has done for the most part is given us an opportunity to be mature about things. Example, last week we played it like an NCAA tournament. We said we want to win the weekend because it was the first time we had 1 day prep. We had East Carolina and then we had North Carolina. And we had 1 day in between. And so on Saturday, we did like we do in the NCAA tournament when we have 4 or 5 days. We prep for both teams on Saturday. We did a little work on East Carolina. We did a little work on North Carolina. Now that doesn't always work if you don't have a mature team, if they don't realize what you've done in the tournament. The first time I said this to the media, I was looking by the first game. I'm not. I just know where we are and what I'm expecting of this team. And winning 1 game in the NCAA tournament does nothing for me. So I learned through some other great coaches that it's about winning the weekend and advancing. Well, we just used that as a little bit of a let's do a little NCAA work here. So we talked about this is what we do here for you new guys. We try to win the weekend, and so we have to prepare for more than one team because in 1 day prep, you're not going to be able to prepare. And I thought that worked real well, and I give my staff a lot of credit for that. But I give my team credit, especially those 4 upperclassmen that have been through the ropes and understood what we were doing. So that was the biggest benefit, I think, that I've gotten out of that, and seeing that it still does work and that you can do some different things with a team that has some veterans and some maturity around, and maybe other people can do it with teams that don't. I just know what I'm doing.
Ton of season left. You've barely even started this thing.
Yeah.
But has your team surprised you at all yet? I mean, 7-0 is 7-0.
Yeah, I mean, when you lay there in the summer and you say, "Wow, I get Arkansas." A friend of mine, John Calipari. I get Duke. I get North Carolina. I get Kentucky. We're all human, and we all look at things like that. And hey, it doesn't mean teams like Colgate or like Oakland coming up. Teams that are very good and play you that don't have those big names. So I thought, wow, this is going to be fun. That was in June and July and August. And then September comes and you say, what the hell did you do? And then you put down, like I do every year, I put down a plus and a minus schedule record. What do I think if we're really good? What do I think if we're just good? And where are we at? Well, none of those would have had us winning all 3 of those big games and still surviving the others because of the ups and downs. And so am I surprised? I'm surprised mostly by, how we're playing. We're actually shooting the ball way better than last year, even though it's not good enough yet. We are defending as good or better. We're rebounding better. I think we've gotten some real progress out of our 2 bigs. And those guys have really, really helped Cam and Jesse. This is the ultimate team part of it. They've really helped those 2 guys. I think Jeremy has taken serious strides, and that means that when your quarterback does, it's better for everybody. And then, with Cohen, he still does a lot of great things, and he's still getting better. So that leads us to those 2 guards. And again, we've made we haven't hidden behind anything, but with Cam and Jordan as the young guys, it's up to now that we go from good to great when our guards get a little better on both ends of the court. And that's the time it's going to take to do that. So am I surprised? Oh, yeah, a little bit. Am I pleased with it? Yeah. Do I think it's been earned? I do. In other words, we didn't get lucky in any of those games. We earned those wins. And I thought my staff's preparation has been phenomenal. And, like Doug Wojcik said, the difference, too, is you can prepare as a staff, you can teach it as a coach or a teacher, but it has to be received and then executed by the real people that are playing the game, because it's not the coach. So that's been the good combination. I feel like we've grown as a staff, but we've grown as a team with our staff. And that's, as you say, a quarter of the way into the season.
Speaking of guards, how cool was it to hang out with Jaden the other night for a little bit?
Oh, God, you know what? Going to see Jace, I just didn't think I was worn out. I'll be honest with you. I wanted to see him. His mom and dad came to our game in Florida, and, you know, when you're not playing as much, although he just had 18 a couple nights earlier, but I wanted to go down and support him because I knew I wouldn't be able to very often. How often does Orlando come to Detroit? And then the frosting on the cake is I took my son, so we got to sit there and watch. And then Jaden called him on the way down, asked him if he'd be going to the game, and he said yes. So got to sit the first half with my son and the second half with Jaden. And Jaden was so good. He was so good. You know, he's doing an unbelievable job with their G League team. But he was so good talking about our team and what he sees. And I said, hell, you could coach my team. And so I really, you know, I was tired. I went down there for a purpose, and I got a lot more out of it than that original purpose. Being there with Jaden was sort of priceless because I think of all he went through, and I felt like he felt it was worth it, and I definitely felt it was worth it. So it was pretty cool.
So I was wondering about Cam in particular. Is he beyond where you thought he'd be 7 games into his true freshman season? And what is it about him that he comes off the bench and he's kind of like instant spark?
Yeah. Well, his mom and dad are both coaches. I mean, that says a lot, you know. Even when he hurt his wrist there on the last game in the first series, he just kind of went on like, you know what, I'm not sitting out there. I'm not, this is, you know, my dad would have me playing, you know, and so that was refreshing. The second thing is he's got toughness and smarts, and that's a hell of a combination. You know, a lot of times the toughest guys aren't the smartest guys. He's got both toughness and smarts academically and toughness and smarts athletically. He has a good basketball IQ. He understands the game. Why wouldn't you when both mom and dad? And the great part is mom's the AD, so she controls dad. So it's a hell of a family situation. But yeah, I just love the fact, and what should get talked about, you know, I think Saudi and Doug have done a good job with our post guys, but what should get talked about is Coop and Jackson. They love that kid, and they've brought him along and mentored him. And a player-coach team, as I always say, is better than a coach-coach. When a player is taking the time to mentor, and the young guy is saying, I'm listening to that player, special things happen, and that's kind of what's been happening for him so far.
2 things for you. One, because you mentioned about Coop. Floor to ceiling. Have you had a guy that has maybe maximized like that? The guys that come to mind for me are like Colby Wallenman and Kenny Goins. But has there been any other guys that maybe didn't have those kind of expectations and blew them away the way they did?
Yeah, you know, I've had a couple, as you know. I mean, even Valentine, believe it or not, didn't come in with everything. Xavier Tillman didn't come in with much at all, and he took it to another level. But Coop has been, you know, he's just gotten better every year. Not as fast as I want him to, but what we forget is he's not even turned 21 yet. He's a senior. You know, my dumb part of me should have redshirted him his freshman year, you know, but he was playing for us. So I just think Coop's best basketball is still ahead of him. And I hope a lot of it comes this year, because he really has been our staple defensively. He's been the educator, handling all situations. He's been a very good leader. And great two-handed rebounder, but his offense is starting to come. His free throw shooting is starting to come. If that comes, I think Carson Cooper goes to a whole nother level. I really think he's a guy that, is going to be playing basketball when he's done here. I really believe that. And so we'll see if that can happen. But I've been very excited about the progress and the direction he's gone.
Second thing I wanted to ask you to was not to give KP a big head, but the way the schedule's structured. You mentioned about how you use the Thanksgiving tournament, but this is almost like a mini Big Ten slate here between the North Carolina game and then the Penn State game, and then back off in the non-conference schedule. I'm wondering how that schedule, with just the overall structure of it, just playing out the way it is. Did you have that in mind, or was that a conscious thing?
Yeah, KP and I talked about it because there are some, like it's sometimes hard to play a big game and then play a team that's not considered as big but is good. And so we did talk about having some time. We felt like the year before, when you play those 3 games in Maui, it kind of crashes down on you. And so I think he deserves to have a big head in this, because I think he did do a lot of it. I think he took, Doug and I talked to him about it, what we were looking for, and I think he ran with it and was able to work out the schedule and still get some of those big games on Saturdays, which everybody hopes for. And, it just worked out, and us using the one-day prep day, I think, was good, especially when the second game was the bigger game, and how we could tell our guys we're not looking past East Carolina, but this is what we do here. We prepare for 2, then the next day, and the next day it was all East Carolina. So I think that was good for our present, good for our future, and I think KP does deserve credit for that. So my staff has done a hell of a job with my team. My team has done a hell of a job with my team. My scheduler has done a hell of a job with scheduling. My trainer has done a hell of a job, and I'm just along for the ride. And it's good this way. Trust me, it's a-okay this way.
Tom, I wanted to ask about the consistency of this year's team. Moving forward, how will consistency, not riding the waves up and down, benefit going forward in the long run?
Well, we haven't had a lot of adversity yet, and even last year, we had the 2 games out there. I mean, it's been an unbelievable run when you really look at it in a lot of ways. But there are, you're going to be impressed, I think, of the team that comes in tomorrow night, and that's the hard part about the job, that is where these Big Ten games in December become more difficult, because that a lot of people are looking forward to the Duke game, okay, except us. We're looking forward to having a good week, and the good week has to have a start, and then it has to have a finish. And the start is very, very important, because usually what starts good sometimes ends good. And so we're very concerned. New coach, new system, one of the best players in the league in Sturts, and making sure that we're disciplined and focused enough not to, applaud our North Carolina and look forward to our Duke, because this is an undefeated, very good Iowa team that is getting full Big Ten attention, and that's the way we're approaching it, to be honest with you.
Hey, Tom, you just sort of mentioned it a little bit. Could you just kind of compare stylistically Iowa now versus Iowa under Fran? And it seems like there's some pretty sizable differences.
Yeah. And let me say this. I have great respect for Ben, and hopefully I'll learn to love him. But I love Fran. Fran was a special guy to me. He was, I loved having him in the league, and sorry that he's not in the league anymore. But in saying that, Ben has done a great job before, and he's done a great job, and their style is different. Franny ran it and shot it all the time, and these guys are more, their pace of play is not as fast as Franny's, but their efficiency, when you look at their field goal percentage and look at their defensive field goal percentage, their efficiency on both ends of the court has been very good.
Tom, I was wondering, do you think, I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't ask you about football, but do you think Jonathan got enough time, you know, into his 2 seasons here? And, you know, as you look for another football coach, what are you looking for in, you know, as far as that consistency to extend it in football?
Well, you know, first of all, are there any more basketball questions? Because I was going to answer this. I would like to do it at the end if it's okay with you, but no problem. Yes.
We were just talking about Iowa's pace of play. I think Drake last year was like the slowest pace of play, I think, in excuse me, all of college basketball. You talked about they're so efficient, 2 parts. So why does that work? And 2, how can you make them uncomfortable in that way?
Yeah. Well, you know, the slowest pace of play is this analytics stuff, which I'm not as high on analytics, you know, because I don't think they measure tickers and all that. But there is some truth to it. They're still scoring points. They're still doing things. Their efficiency is good. I don't think teams like when Wisconsin, I think the advantage of my teams over the years, when Wisconsin was scoring 50 points a game back when, you know, even before Bo, you know, we could beat them 59-52. We did not always try to impose our will on somebody, because I think what that does, it gets frustrating for you. I think, you know, great teams, I think, can hopefully play their style, which I want to do, and we're still going to run, but not be frustrated if that stuff doesn't work. And if it's got to be a slugfest, let's get in it, you know. And that's, so I don't talk about that a lot. I just say, hey, you might be playing defense a little longer in a possession, but don't worry about it. When we get the ball, we're still going. And they are efficient. You'll enjoy watching them play. I hope not too much, but you'll enjoy it.
So Tom, my first when I first got here, your point guard was Cassius, so that's sort of the start of the timeline. From there to here, it feels like Jeremy is sort of the closest to sort of your, I don't know, intensity, competitiveness. It seems like you guys are more alike, definitely, than Cassius and some of the guys in between there. It seems like he kind of embodies what the program has been about in a lot of ways, with just the way he approaches the game, the sort of snarling, gritty stuff that he's about. Has that been part of your appreciation of coaching with him this year? It seems like he sort of matches your demeanor, I guess, and when that's the point guard.
Yeah, that's a polite way of saying it. I kind of like that. That is a polite way of saying it, but maybe you could say it this way too, with a Mateen or Kalen or some of those kind of guys. Maybe I matched theirs. Maybe they didn't match mine. Maybe I matched theirs. Maybe I think what's been cool about it with Jeremy, you know, there's been struggles. I mean, I don't hide behind them. I tell you guys. And, you know, an interesting thing you should ask him sometime, what's the difference now in the first, you know, 2 years, you know? And if you watch him, when he does some great things now and they work, or how he's shooting, he used to have that hitch in his shot and didn't realize it, you know. And I say, boy, I'm glad I stayed in your backside. And I think he appreciates it now. So I didn't give up on him, and he didn't give up on me. And that's what really bonds people. I think when you go through things together and you have some ups and downs and you come out on the other end of the tunnel, usually the bond is a lot better. He walked in my office this morning, and I just said, you know, I'm proud of what you did in practice yesterday. And because he started out kind of sluggish, and I jumped him, and he responded. And he knows I want what's best for him. I know he wants to do what's best and help us win and help him become better. And once you get to that, you know, and it's not perfect yet. It'll have its moments, but deep down now, I've always got a level to bring him to and say, hey, this is what we did when we did it together. And so I've been really pleased. He is a leader. He's not afraid of his own voice. He's gotten in better shape. That was a problem last year, along with having a summer almost off. So he's improving and we're improving, and that's really the way it's been here since that tall guy named Magic. You know, I mean, when we've had good point guards, you know, when Skiles was here, when Steve Smith was here. I mean, you know, it goes on. The Eric Snows of the world, and then of course Mateen was my era, and you know, Jeremy has some of those same qualities. You know, it's now getting the consistency that Mateen had his last couple of years. You know, it's that consistency where winning was the most important thing. Now you go 20, 25 years later, when everything has changed in the world, it's hard for players to be that way too. But I'm going to coach him to be that way because that guy was pretty successful, not only for the team, but for himself. And I think Jeremy has some parts of him that can be every bit of that. And we'll see if that can continue.
That sort of fiery demeanor, though, does that add a little more when he's playing? There's a basketball player, but when he has that intensity about things, does that just add a little layer on top for you?
Oh, 100%. He excites me when he's like that. Now I got to get him like that 90% of the time. It'll never be 100, you know, but it can't be 50, 60. And that's where I think he's really grown. And I think part of it is the conditioning, and part of it is getting through the injury, and part of it is trusting, and all those things. They're all good things, but if we sit here and say there's so many good things, you know, we'll have people like yourselves thinking we're going to be undefeated this year, and that's probably not going to happen. But at the same time, I do like the progress we're making. This will be a big week. You know, it really will, because this conference game is going to be, this is not an easy conference game opener like sometimes you have. And sometimes you have a very difficult conference game opener. But this one is an undefeated team who's well coached. I mean, when you win 82% of your games, it doesn't matter if you're doing it playing tiddlywinks. I mean, he did it in a good conference. He did it consistently. And I think people are going to enjoy the game tomorrow night. So, you know, I would be remiss, and I'm going to say this as politely and as well as I can say it. I hate what's happened to Jonathan Smith. I hate what's happened because things did not go as well as I would like them, but more importantly, things did not go as well as he would like it. I did talk to him every week, talked to him before every game. There are a lot of things that were issues, but a lot of things that were beyond his control. You know, got the job. It was a tough job. But as head coaches, we understand our responsibility. You know, we understand that everything is not rosy, and we understand because of this demented way we're doing things now, people have always been hired to be fired in these jobs. George Perlis told me that I definitely will be fired when I got the job, and still could happen. But I look at Jonathan and I said, man, I went to his practices. He is a good football mind, and I don't think anybody ever questioned his character, his integrity. He always represented us with class. And I think what saddens me the most is these last 2-3 weeks. I mean, everybody knows the UCLA game here was a tough game. We didn't look good. It wasn't a good look in general. But if you don't think Tom Izzo's had a few of those games, I mean, I was down 30 to Memphis at halftime. You know, I mean, we've all gone through it. But what really impressed me is to get yourself off the ground and continue is what we're paid for. But to get your players off the ground to continue, and I did think they competed, whether it be at Indiana, Nebraska. I can think of games, USC, that I think we could have, should have won. And weren't quite as talented, but we could have, should have won. And when you lose a couple of them, as we always say, then you become worse than you are. Sometimes when you win some, you become better than you actually are. And that was what was most impressive. The on-field results weren't what we all hoped and wanted, but speak highly for everyone in that program because, as I said, I went to practices. I went to every game I could be at. So I don't like the way it's going as far as when you look around the country. It used to be you had 4 or 5 years to turn a program around. It feels like sometimes you have 4 or 5 weeks. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's tough now. And some of it is because of the portal. Some of it's because of the NIL. Some of it's because of impatience in general. And but I am saddened by what happened. I understood it. He understood it. I talked to him today. He understood it, which is really important, but doesn't mean we have to like it.
I don't know if you want to go here. Would you support a Pat Fitzgerald hire? Or can't you say that?
Oh, I can say anything I want to say, I guess. I'm not sure it matters, but I could support whoever they put in front of me. I really mean that because I think they'll do their due diligence and try to come up with the best fit for our program. And so, I do know Pat a little bit. I know what he's done there. There's so many rumors that come out of these things right off the bat, and I will say this, that I think a lot of things happened quicker than, that's another problem. I was talking to a coach, a great football, retired coach today, and he talked about an antiquated calendar. The calendar creates problems for us, what we've got to do and what sequence of events you do them in. And was this a surprise? I think sort of. Was it a total surprise? I don't think it was. Who they hire, it's a crazy world out there right now. If you look at, I just saw where another, Kentucky, did they fire a guy this morning? So, this stuff is happening at a incredible rate. And one thing I am is I'm a team guy. I don't care who they get and who they hire. I'm going to be supportive of that person. I'm hoping that we get somebody that fits us and fits our program, because the players that are here deserve that. The fans that are here deserve that. The people in the athletic department deserve it, because I'll say this till the day I leave this place. I can do a lot of things here. Stacy Slobotnik, talked to her this morning. She's done more than I have if you really look at what she's accomplished. Adam is doing incredible things. Our volleyball has been incredible. Our soccer has been incredible. It just doesn't match up to football. We put them all together, and we probably are as important as half of a football program. And that's not insulting. That's not demeaning to the rest of us. That's, as my son would say, those are facts. And so I think it is very important that we get somebody that we think can take this program to where it's been before, and can we get it back there on a consistent basis. But you can't blame Jonathan for all that, because he got the job. It was some tough situations that we were going through.
Tom, I find it interesting. You said you spoke with him today, so these things aren't transactional. And then when you talk about the way things are in this new era, what advice can you give to a fan base that's transitioning?
What I don't like about you is you always ask deep, because of your profession, deep, sophisticated questions that are hard to answer in one word. But I will say this. I hope our fan base acts like I'd like us to be, and that's supportive of our school, of our teams. I get the whole deal. I understand the whole deal. I know what winning's all about. I like following a winning program myself, you know. But I just want you to know I went to hockey games when we weren't as good. I've gone to volleyball games when we weren't as good. I've gone to football games when we weren't as good. And I have to go to basketball games when we're not as good sometimes. So I've been there and done that. And I would tell the fans that, you know, we went through a tough few years, not just in football and everything. And the old adage, my father used to use it, but many people use it, you know, what doesn't kill you is going to make you stronger. And if we can rally together, there's one thing that I've learned, and what I love about this place is, you know, together we stand, divided we fall, you know. And we need everybody to support that, because if football's better, we're all better. And I think that's what I'd ask our fan base. Have some faith. I know it's been a little rocky, but have some faith. And it's important to me, and if they care about me, if they care about Stacy Slobotnik, people that have been here 25, 30 years or more, we're going to be supportive, so I'd hope they would be.
Tom, I know you're real busy with the game on Tuesday, your day job as basketball coach, you got your hands full with that one, but you've also taken time in the past to mentor football players here and there and talk to them and when they've had decisions and so forth. I know you're busy this week, but in this time of transition, by any chance, would you reach out to football players or have a statement to them or about sticking with it, because they're going to be leaving here Friday or so to go home and so forth for winter break, in terms of sticking with the program, or just any message to them at all? Either broad-based or to individuals and so forth.
Yeah.
Do you have time for that?
Well, mine would be broad-based right now. As you have said, I have had players in my office because I believe in the place and I believe what sticking with something can do for you. I do understand the problems too. And I would just say this, that if you came here for the right reasons, you know, there's a reason I haven't left, because I'm here for the right reasons. It wasn't the money. It wasn't that the program was maybe so successful. It was to try to build something with a group of people in an environment that I think is blue collar and about what's right in the world. And the grass is not always greener, you know, and I look at what's happened down at LSU and Ole Miss, and it was all over the TV today, so I had no choice but to watch it. And when I looked at it, I don't hold nothing against Lane Kiffin for leaving. I don't hold anything, but I think we always talk about giving the kids an advantage, and this is good for you since you're in this mold. So what happens to the kids at Ole Miss? Chance to play for a national championship. What happens to the kids at LSU? I'll never forget when Nick Saban first got down there, he said, I don't even leave the state. There's so many players in the state that are dying to come to LSU. Well, maybe there's a bunch there that are dying to come to LSU, and he takes a bunch of players from Ole Miss, and now those guys are out. So maybe at one minute they didn't get a chance to win a national championship. That may never come again. The second minute, maybe they're replacing guys that died to be Tigers, and those kids' dreams are broken. And then the final one is maybe they won't win one there. So I just think everybody looks at this so differently than I do. And maybe I'm the one screwed up. But I know there's a couple guys that, you know, I watched Hall play the other day. And I said to myself, you know, I was at one of Jonathan's radio shows, and he was a guest. And I left there and I said, God, I'd like to coach that guy. He impressed the hell out of me. And he might get a call, whether we play Duke, whether we play whoever. Just to say, I know what you're going through, but you've been here for the right reasons. Maybe you can be here another year and lead a new group of people, you know, because that's needed. I learned it's needed. Cooper and Kohler have done an unbelievable job, okay? They went through some tough times early in their career. You know, they were a hair away from going to a Final Four, and who knows what this year will bring. But that's what I would tell those guys, and I would tell our fan base to support those guys. And, you know, I don't wish what's happened to our coaches on anybody. I don't wish what's happened to these players on anybody. But I also, because of experience, know the grass isn't always greener. And it might be greener for that moment, but it doesn't mean it's going to be greener for the big picture. That's it. Well, listen, guys, I do appreciate it, and I appreciate that you let me get through the basketball. It is what's most important to me right now, even though in the big picture, football is very important to me, and I thank you for that.